Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dominate Law. I'm Angie, and I will be your host and moderator for this live panel. Our topic is what technology is actually making law firms money and what's just costing you a monthly subscription. This session is being recorded and a replay will be shared with you afterwards, so stay tuned for that. You're welcome to submit questions at any point using the Q&A box. Anonymous questions are absolutely fine as well. We will also be using the chat for a few quick audience prompts and for links shared by our support team. So keep an eye on that as well. So tonight we're going to look past the feature lists and sales promises and focus on what really matters. Which technologies are helping law firms increase revenue, improve capacity, strengthen the client experience, and operate more profitably, and which ones are simply adding another monthly expense. Now, let's get started. The conversation we're having tonight doesn't have to end when this panel does. It continues each week on the Dominate Law podcast. New episodes are released every week featuring practical conversations designed to help law firm owners strengthen their businesses, improve operations, and make smarter growth decisions. Just search for Dominate Law Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and be sure to subscribe. Now, tonight's panel is proudly sponsored by Echo Marketing, a trusted digital marketing partner helping law firms attract better fit clients, strengthen their online visibility, and build sustainable growth. With more than 18 years of experience and a client base of over 500 professional practices across the United States and Canada, Equa supports firms through SEO, high converting websites, content marketing, social media, and reputation building strategies. So thank you to Equa Marketing for making this educational conversation possible. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you this. How much is your law firm currently spending on technology each month? More importantly, how many of these tools are actually helping you generate revenue? Many firms invest in practice management software, automation tools, AI platforms, CRM systems, and marketing technology. And some of these tools can save time. They improve the client experience, strengthen conversion, and increase profitability. Others may simply become another recurring expense. The real challenge is knowing the difference. So today, we're going to explore which technologies are genuinely helping law firms improve efficiency, attract better fit clients, and grow revenue, and which investments may be costing more than they deliver. So be sure to stay with us until the end because we'll also share a practical opportunity to help you review your current technology stack and identify where your firm may be losing time, money, or growth potential. Tonight, we will look at 5 practical areas. Which tools are increasing revenue and realization? Which subscriptions firms rarely use? Which intake, automation, and communication systems move the needle? And how to evaluate ROI before renewal. Also, how to build a leaner, more profitable legal technology stack. The goal is not to tell every firm to buy the same technology. It is to give leaders a better way to diagnose, decide, implement, and measure. Our first panelist is Monica Goel, Vice President of Legal Innovation at Briefly Legal. Monica is an entrepreneur and legally trained innovator who evaluates and implements emerging legal technologies across the firm. Her work has included AI-driven product development, contract and document automation, and streamlined corporate services solutions. She's also taught and spoken extensively on data, artificial intelligence, law, and the evolving role of technology in the legal profession. Monica, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angie.
Joining Monica is Christine Tyler, co-founder and chief brand officer of Law Clerk. Christine is also a practicing attorney and partner at Garman Turner Gordon. Through Law Clerk, she has helped transform how lawyers and law firms find and flexibly engage legal talent. Christine speaks frequently on innovating hiring strategies, practical legal technology, the ethics of outsourcing, and building more flexible and sustainable legal careers. Kristen, it is a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, likewise. Thank you.
All right, let's get started. Let's get into the main discussion. Monica, I would love to start with you. Now, when you look at the past year, which technology has made the biggest financial difference for law firms?
Well, if you can't talk, like when you're talking about this year, you have to talk about token consumption. So AI is absolutely making the biggest impact. It has the biggest impact still. Law firms are still trying to grapple with it, understand it, and so forth. What's happened this year is that the companies, Claude, Legora, Microsoft even, is starting to move towards something that they call consumption-based pricing. Now, what that is, and it's always been there for anybody who's building an application, and the way that they are charged by the companies like OpenAI and Anthropic is they're pay for every query. Every time that they use the model, they pay a fee for that. What has happened over time is that the models have become more complex and more expensive to run, and as a result, the cost has gone up, and the token cost has gone up. So what the companies are grappling with, the Harveys, Legoras, the big kind of AI companies in the legal space, is how do they price? How do they, recoup their costs? And so, for example, the CEO of Harvey said that last year they had paid about 1 trillion tokens, and this year it has increased to 13 trillion tokens. Now, if you add that up, it sounds like a lot, but if you look at the token costs, it could be 500 million, it could be 100 million, depending on which model you use and so forth. So significant costs for these companies in these tokens. And so now this is coming to us in the legal space. We have to, we're being asked to now pay by tokens. And so our firm is doing our company is doing a pilot with Claude Enterprise. And what we're finding is that the token costs are quite high and they're significant. And so as law firms, we're going to have to figure out how do we deal with this, kind of new technology. There's lots of value here with this technology, but what's the ROI? What is that going to be that return? And how do we recoup that cost? So I think that's the biggest issue that I think law firms are facing.
What is the first metric a managing partner should look at to decide whether that technology is actually paying off?
Is that to me or is that to Kristen?
You.
Yeah. So that's a very complicated question. How do you measure, or what's the measurement? How are you going to do that? What we're looking at is, one of the ways that we look at it, or one of the ways I look at it, is KPIs. So key performance indicators. We look and we think about what is the particular task or what's the particular legal work that we're trying to use the technology with. We think about how do we do it now, and then we think about how are we going to be doing it differently with AI, and what is going to be that time savings and so forth, and then measure against that and see, are we actually receiving that time savings? I think one of the challenges with the AI is that we've increased the cost and we haven't kind of taken that look and seen how it's impacted our actual work. And so we've increased the cost, and there hasn't right now been kind of I think, corresponding decrease in billings to the clients. And at the same time, I think for the lawyers, because they're still learning, I don't know if there is a corresponding decrease in the work that they're doing for clients too. I don't, if that makes sense. I don't know, Kristen, you're nodding your head. Do you have some?
I think if I was going to try to come up with some sort of a KPI, I think your question, Angie, was just to evaluate a technology tool and its if it's helping the firm,
Right.
whatever, you'd have to, I guess, define what success means in terms of this technology tool. But just broadly, if I was going to implement some sort of a KPI, I think I'd want to know how many members of the firm are logging in and using this tool daily, weekly. What's the frequency? Are we actually leveraging this tool, or is it just something we're paying for? I think I'd want, and you can do that through a simple survey to your team to get feedback on their experience with a new tool. That might be something that I would do. That came to mind.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do. We look at usage statistics. A lot of the platforms have usage statistics, so you can see all of those statistics, like daily users, what are the queries, and so forth. What it doesn't show you, though, is how is that potentially impacting onto billables, right? That gives you a sense of, is a tool being used, which is still very important knowledge right now. We're still in the phase where lawyers are starting to get onto the platforms and starting to use it. So we don't want to impede them from that process. But yeah, it is complicated to kind of understand, and definitely one of the things we look at. Yeah.
That is such great insight. Thank you so much. Now, this brings us to an important point. Kristen, can you share a real example of a technology investment that failed because the firm was not ready to implement it properly?
Yeah, well, I think was it ready to implement? I was thinking of this a little more broadly, I guess, in terms of the fact that, we in the legal profession are historically a very conservative profession. We're pretty slow to change. I mean, it's kind of comical now to look back and think about how slow we were to adopt email 25 years ago. But I think one of the biggest failures there in terms of expectations and what's actually happening has been with I think across the industry as a whole, we've been slow to adapt now that this wave of AI has come on us so quickly. I don't think a year ago, for sure, we would not, if you told us a year ago that we would be where we were today with AI, most people would be like, that's not possible in a year. Everything's happened very quickly, especially in the last 6 to 9 months. And I think it's caught a lot of law firm leaders by surprise. And so I think you have a lot of firms that have been very slow to adapt. And granted, my work falls more in the small to mid-sized firms. I think Monica's better versed with the larger big law space. But I think you've got a lot of firms that just have their heads in the sand and they're ignoring it, thinking it's not as it's happening as fast as it really is, or they're not realizing that their clients are maybe using it and getting themselves into trouble, or that other firm members that they have a duty to supervise are using AI tools without their knowledge or approval and maybe not using them correctly. And so we have a really big gap between thinking it wouldn't happen as fast as it has and not quickly adapting. That's my take on it.
Monica, is there anything that you would like to add? What early warning signs that tell you that a technology rollout is already moving away from the firm's original expectations?
Going back to what we were talking before, we really look at the usage statistics. At the early stages, we're looking at how many people are actually using it to gauge. And then sometimes what it does is that those stats also tell us maybe that we need to pivot and maybe we need to invest more in training or in awareness, or maybe the attorneys aren't understanding what exactly the software is. So, it also is a good kind of indicator of like, okay, warning indicator that, something is afoul. We try to prevent that from happening. What we do is internally is we do a lot of piloting. So before we kind of, invest in something, we're fairly confident that the attorneys are going to like it or have, indicated interest because we've already done piloting and surveying and so forth before we even get to that stage. And that's because I've learned from the past about what are some of the, about rolling out and not having a success. So yeah, so I always pilot.
I believe that brings us to another common problem, right? Where do you see law firms confusing software activity with actual business progress?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And what we're seeing is we're seeing lots of, like I said, activity, use of like the AI tools. And, the question right now, I think for a lot of law firm leaders is what's the ROI? And the ROI really translates to the business progress, right? It's like, okay, people are using these tools now. What does that translate into in terms of business outcomes? Is it improved client experience? Is it improved workflow? Like, does that mean we can do more work? Should we be investing in other types of work? So, this I think is the real kind of question right now is like, how do we take that AI and that new technologies and how do we translate that in our work into, as you termed it, business progress, into those business outcomes. And it's a work in progress. Like right now, it's trying to figure that out. It's right now the thing that we're trying to do. And I think it goes back a little bit to some of the principles prior to AI, thinking about use cases and thinking about how actually people do work, instead of just saying, hey, here's a shiny new tool, use it. It's like, oh, here's a new tool that you can use for transactional work, and these are the workflows that would support that.
Christine, I'd like to get back to you. What trade-offs should law firms leaders consider before adding another technology subscription?
Yeah, I think it's often all too easy to add another subscription, especially when the pricing on a lot of tools has come down significantly. It's easy to add on, but before you do that, before you add another service, I think far too many law firm leaders are not really confronting the fact that they're not already leveraging the tools that they have. So whatever your tech stack is, every technology solution for law firms is constantly rolling out, new versions with enhanced features. And I think it's easy for us when we're busy in our day-to-day work to maybe ignore those emails when we get them from our vendors, our suppliers, our different partners, or to, blow off the call from the customer service rep who was trying to call and give you a personal one-on-one hand-holding walkthrough of new features and ways that you can use your existing tools. So I think before you add anything, you need to pause from your daily busy schedule to reevaluate what features your current solutions already offer, or that you could add on through some sort of I'm blanking on the word, but either an add-on, a widget, or an integration with some other little add-on that would enhance the existing tool before getting a whole nother platform or a whole nother license, another login and password to remember, all of those things. So I think a big thing that law firm leaders need to be mindful of is making sure they're already fully using the tools they already have before they just keep adding.
What 3 questions do you think a leader should ask before approving a new technology purchase? Christine,
Oh, what 3 questions?
Yeah, even 2, it's fine.
Yeah, I think you have to do an analysis of like the cost benefit of the cost and the time savings. A cost benefit analysis. I think you always want to ask how this could improve your client's experience working with your firm. And also, I think, how could this improve the day-to-day working environment of your team members? Because, you hear about these talent wars that are really at all levels of legal, and people leave. And how can you use technology to make the day-to-day stress of being lawyers a little bit less for your existing team members so that they stay and they keep adding value?
That is such a great answer, Christine. Now, that leads us next to the next question. Monica, what criteria should a law firm use to decide whether a new technology is a useful innovation or simply a costly distraction?
There's a lot of that right now, the costly distractions. And I think when you're going in and you're looking at a new technology, what I think you really want to think about is, how do you do your work? Like, thinking about how you currently do your work, or what practice area you're practicing in, and how does this solution support that work and your work. So let me give you an example. There's a number of AI solutions on the market right now that don't have good integration into legal research. And if you're doing any type of litigation work, having access to a repository of case law is very important for the usefulness of that tool. And so I find that a number of people who are in the litigation space, they are really excited about AI. They purchase one of these tools, but then it's really not working for their workflows because it doesn't have the knowledge that they need for their work. So really understanding your workflow, understanding what's the value it's going to bring. Does it satisfy all the requirements that you have? And sometimes like, because there's like all this hype, it's really, enticing to want to adopt and use one of these tools. But, sometimes if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And maybe the right approach is to wait and see, what comes in the market. What we're seeing in the market is just such a deluge in terms of new technologies. And it's like within 6 months, it changes drastically. So it's like if you don't find something right now, wait 6 months, you might have a different experience. So yeah, that's, one thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, for sure. Kristen, is there anything that you'd like to add, maybe from the user's perspective? What can make a technically impressive product a poor fit for attorneys and staff?
Yeah, I think I think it comes down to any tool needs to be really clean and easy for a lawyer to use. Again, our work days are hectic, and if there's any friction in using a tool, if it's not really intuitive, if the user can't just log in and kind of self-serve and intuitively figure things out, they're going to forget about it. They're not going to use it if they have. So you really want to be mindful of trying to create tools that are frankly easy for lawyers to use. We are very intelligent people. I'm an attorney, Monica's an attorney, but we are juggling so many competing demands all the time that creating platforms that are clean and easy to use is going to keep your users coming back time and time again.
All right, Christine, getting back to you again, when should a law firm improve its people, processes, or staffing before investing in more technology?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to figure out a couple of things about where your bottlenecks are, and then are the bottlenecks a temporary situation or a more long-term sustained problem? So, for example, if you currently have a capacity issue because maybe you thought these 3 big cases were going to settle, but none of them are, and now you're suddenly going to trial on 3 cases back to back over 6 months, then that's a temporary solution where maybe you don't have time to go invest in new technology or totally revamp your process. You might just have to invest in staffing, and there's a lot of really great staffing options out there for law firms, whether you need help in terms of paralegals or attorneys to just temporarily leverage talent through an outsourced capacity to get you through that short-term season of that, these unexpected cases that are all going to trial. Versus if you're seeing these capacity constraints more long-term, then you probably need to look at all of those things. Your existing people, where could you add staffing, evaluating the work that your people are doing. And by that, I mean, when is the last time that maybe a practice group leader has really looked at like the billing records for their whole team to look at like, why is the senior partner writing discovery themselves? This is not a good use of your time. Looking at the nitty gritty of the day-to-day, month-to-month use of time, where are people doing tasks that are not the best use of their time that should be passed down to a different team member or a platform or a technology platform? And so I think that frankly, if you're doing hourly billing, and even I think a lot of people that do flat fee billing still track their activities to know what their people are working on. You can identify a lot of issues there that will then guide you whether you need to add more people, add new technology, or redo the process of, senior partner is never allowed to do the first draft of discovery ever again. Like this is how this is going to work moving forward. So those are some things that can give you clues. You're on mute, Angie.
Thank you. So sorry about that. But yeah, I was saying that I think this question is very interesting, and I think maybe we could stay on this topic for a bit. Monica, what tells you that a firm has done enough process work to benefit from a technology investment?
One of the indicators is that people are using it. That's what I look at as a first kind of measurement is like, are people using it? Feedback is always important. Like, we do surveys and so forth to understand could be informal or could be formal, but we are asking the attorneys or asking the law clerks or the paralegals, how do they like a particular tool? The other thing that I think, Kristen, you had some great points that you made, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. It is really hard. Like, this trying to get lawyers to use a tool, it's like really, really hard. And so if you see, like if you have a tool which is easy to use, that reduces that friction, sometimes see, very good usage. So that's one of the things that we look at when we're looking at tools and trying to evaluate them is how easy is it to use, and that will help us in terms of the adoption of the tool as well.
All right, we'll take a little bit of break at this point and share something with you. So before we move into implementation and measurement, I want to share a practical resource for firms that want help applying this framework to their own technology and growth decisions. We have spent the first half of tonight looking at how to distinguish genuine business value from software net activity and how to decide whether the real need is technology, people, process, or staffing. For law firm leaders who want to apply that thinking to their own growth decisions, Dominate Law and Eco Marketing are offering today's attendees a focused 45-minute strategy session. The session is designed for law firm owners, managing partners, practice and operation leaders, firms evaluating AI and legal technology spend, and teams reworking intake, CRM, or automation. The stated value is $900 and the session is completely complimentary. You can scan the QR code or visit www.dominatelaw.com/MSM or even use the link that our support group is placing in the chat. So during the meeting, you will receive a technology and marketing snapshot, revenue driving priorities, and a 30-day action plan and a client-facing competitive edge review. Also, an ROI review for smarter spending. Seats are limited, so reserve your spot while the QR code is on the screen. I will give you a minute to scan the code. Also, you can scan the code or visit www.dominatelaw.com/MSM. All right, let us return to the panel and move from the buying decision into implementation, adoption, ownership, and measurable results. Monica, let's start with you again. What implementation process gives new legal technology the best chance of succeeding after the initial launch?
And one thing that I found that works really well is having somebody who is championing the technology. So like one of the attorneys, one of the law clerks, and that can drive, that who will be the early user, who can drive, who can show to their peers and colleagues how you use the solution. And that has worked really well in terms of something that's been successful and something that's not been as successful. So I think that is really helpful. When we're talking about implementation, again, we really look at the workflow. So we're looking at how does this fit into the workflow, and training or educating, providing that training education to attorneys or to law clerks to help them understand how to fit that into their workflow. Sometimes what I find is that when somebody has the tool, even if they kind of have a sense of how to use it, until they maybe see somebody actually doing it, so you demonstrating it to them, until they see that, they are a little bit wary of using it. So having that support, helping them through that kind of first iteration or first use, kind of a little bit high touch at the beginning stages, can really help in terms of implementing and adoption of the software technology.
What do you think should happen during the first 30 days after a new tool goes live?
Well, first thing we do is we always do some type of training or some type of education session where we go through, here's the tool, this is how it works. Sometimes we have the vendor participate. So they, participate, they provide that face of, hey, we're here to support you as well. And so that's one thing that has to happen. Sometimes what we do is we do rollouts and phases. So we might have like a group. And so we're working with that group. Once we have that group using it, confident about it, then we roll it to a larger group. So it just depends on the software.
All right, Christine, getting back to you, what adoption problems have you seen when attorneys resist changing how work is assigned or managed?
Yes, yeah, that I see that a lot. I did want to chime in first that I love what Monica said about having a champion anytime you're introducing something new to the firm. That is so key in a profession where we are all trained to look for the flaws and the problems and the holes and to point those out. It's the way our brains work. It is so critical to have someone that is going to be a positive voice and point out all the highlights and the benefits and how great this is going at every level of rollout, whether that's with a tech committee or with practice groups or even with paralegal meetings where you're training. Having that positive voice from a champion cannot be emphasized enough. That was a great point. But I think, Angie, you were asking now about, where are the problems when attorneys resist changing how they assign work and how work gets done, really. And so I see that a lot with my work at Law Clerk, obviously. And the biggest problems, I think, especially when it comes to small firms and medium-sized firms, is with a solo attorney or a small firm attorney, they think it takes too long to delegate and assign work. They think I'll just do it myself. It's faster, regardless if it really is or not, regardless if they're already burning the candle at both ends and not sleeping enough or not eating enough, not exercising. At the smaller firms, often, the partner or each individual attorney can really be a bottleneck if they are resistant to delegate. And probably the biggest reason I get for that is either they think it takes too much time to delegate, or they don't think anyone else could do even a 70% as well as they could on getting a first draft. And typically and some people, there's frankly some lawyers that will never get over that challenge. But the ones who do challenge themselves to start assigning work to other people on their team or to work with outsourced resources, I always say delegating is an art. Okay, you have to refine your art. You have to practice. You get better every time. At the mid-size law firm, those mid-size partners are definitely more adept at delegating to the junior associate down the firm because they can walk down there and they tell them what to do and they've got all the templates in there. And it's, that is very routine at the mid-size and bigger firms. Where I see the problems at the mid-size level is when you have those partners who are very used to delegating to the real human associate down the hallway, but they struggle to delegate to perhaps remote associates, whether that's a remote team member or an outsourced remote attorney. That can just be some sort of mental barrier for a lot of people that if they would approach it really essentially the same way that they do when they walk down the hall to give someone an assignment in terms of saying, hey, I need you to do work on this case. These are the issues. Here's some documents you need. If you have any other questions, let me know. It's really not that different when you're working with someone remote, and far too many attorneys are, still trying to juggle more work than they can really handle because they're so resistant to refining their art of delegating to a remote associate. And so those are some of the challenges I see.
That's such great insight, Christine. Thank you so much. Monica, getting back to you, how should law firms assign responsibility for technology training, usage, and accountability?
I think it depends on the size of the firm. So, it's when you're talking about a solo or small firm, it might be the person who is doing all three things, right? And so if I was giving advice to somebody who is a small solo firm lawyer, what I would recommend is leveraging the resources from the software vendors. So the software vendors have lots of resources that are putting together. So like, for example, we're using Harvey. Harvey has something called Harvey Academy. So it has a lot of like online webinars and practice, sessions that help you understanding the software. Someone like if you've got instead if you've got like a bigger firm, So in my role, I'm VP of Legal Innovation. So what we're seeing in a lot of firms, even mid-sized firms, is these directors of legal innovation or AI and so forth. So they have people who is responsible for looking at the tools, for helping with the implementation and helping with the training and so forth. And so that's part of what I do in my role. Now, what I find is that it's just a piece of the puzzle. Like, having practice leads or having lawyers who are in a particular group who kind of help to also drive and say, this is what I need. And then being able to support them in that need is very helpful in terms of helping with the training piece and so forth. And in terms of accountability, I think that with any size operation, leadership really matters. So if you want to have something that's successful, a technology rollout that's successful, having the leadership say, yes, this is what we're doing, and we want you to use and adopt this, it really, really helps in terms of the adoption and use of a new technology.
For a small firm owner, what could a simple responsibility structure look like without a formal technology department?
Yeah, I mean, it's really challenging, but what I find is that like some tools that can be helpful for a small firm owner is looking at some of the third-party services out there. So there's a company called Legal Tech Hub, and they have evaluations of different software solutions. And that can be a really good resource in terms of understanding what are the tools out there and how do people see those tools. The other forum that I think really is helpful is bar associations, or in Canada, the law societies. They have good kind of education sessions that help and bring some of that expertise. So you know that they are credible, and you know that the speakers are probably credible, and so that you can learn from them. I think those are really good places to learn. And I've found for myself that conferences, like going to conferences and looking at the exhibitors. So, you go to a conference where there's a big exhibition hall, that is a really good place to kind of do research and understand the solutions out there.
That's a good point. Yeah, the conferences can be a great, plus it gets the attorney out of their day-to-day busy work life, and it really forces them to consider all these different options and see what's out there. Beyond that, one other tip that I often give smaller firms when they don't have that full technology department is just to make it a point to maybe schedule a quarterly check-in. Make yourself a quarterly law firm technology, block an hour and evaluate, maybe that's the time to just look at tools you've implemented and are they working or not, and set realistic goals. But you can calendar and have standing appointments to make yourself do a check-in, so it doesn't just, another year flies by and you're still using all the same things, whether they're really the best tools or not.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one thing a friend of mine shared with me recently is that she's part of a group of attorneys where they gather together to talk about a particular area of law. She's a solo lawyer, and she said that recently it's all about AI. So they share with each other what are the different AI tools that they're looking at and what their experience has been. So having that kind of peer group can be really valuable as well.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Christine, getting back to you, what evidence shows that technology is genuinely improving lawyer capacity rather than adding more administrative work?
Could probably talk about that for an hour alone on itself, but adding lawyer capacity, I always am like hesitant to talk about adding capacity because I feel like so many people are already kind of at their max, but if maybe you are in a position where your firm is growing, then obviously you can measure whether you're improving your capacity by, number of new clients, number of new cases opened every month. That could be an indicator, maybe even number of cases closed if you're able to bring certain pieces of work to completion, collect that bill. I think at the end of the day, if a technology is adding administrative drag, so this administrative drag to me is Is the technology resulting in the partners having to review more things than they're already reviewing? That probably isn't really solving a problem. Is the tool allowing the lawyers by and large to reduce the amount of time they're spent on the so-called grunt work? That could be a win if getting rid of the grunt work to different technology solutions to allow the lawyers to do more lawyering. That's a win. That's hard to measure though. I don't know how you measure that, but you could look for evidence of that in terms of your associate satisfaction and I guess again their bills, looking at the kind of work they're actually doing in billing compared to what it was 6 months or a year ago. But there's so many competing capacity questions about, if you really are trying to take on more clients and more cases, measuring those numbers, but then also being mindful to make sure it's not just adding more review work and more grunt work for the partners themselves.
Monica, what governance checklists should law firms use before expanding AI or automation across legal work?
Yeah, I think this is a great question because sometimes we go to solutions. So we go and we look at the technology and we're like, okay, we're going to buy the technology. Then we think about governance, like we think about data security, privacy, confidentiality, all those kinds of concerns. So having that framework of like, what are we what's the governance going to look like? What is going to be acceptable to us? And then from there, then going and looking at the technology can be, I think, is the better way. And it also starts that conversation in the firm about what should we be looking at, like from a technology perspective, what is our risk level? Like what should we be thinking about when we're selecting these tools? So for sure, on that governance checklist is going to be around confidentiality, maintaining confidentiality. So like anything related to our ethical rules, like lawyering ethical rules. Then also thinking about when I think about AI, I think about, I want zero data retention. So I don't want the AI tools to save any of my data. I don't want it to be used for training of the data, right? So that's part of my governance checklist. Now, by setting that at the beginning, that then informs some of the technology decisions that you're going to make because you're going to be looking for solutions that meet that criteria, right? And not all software solutions meet that criteria. So for example, if you are using Claude Pro, so Claude has different tiers of software solution. If you're using Claude Pro is subject to consumer terms, and their consumer terms does not have a clause around confidentiality. It doesn't have a absolute no training. It says you can opt out of training, but then it says we could still be training on some of the data. What does that mean, right? So having that governance checklist is really important at the outset because that then informs, like when you're looking at tools and when you're talking within the firm, you can say, this meets our policy and this doesn't meet our policy, right? I think there's still, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica, for that. That was such great insight. We have a question from one of our attendees, Asit Patel. We will definitely get to your question during the Q&A session. And for those of you, the rest of you who are attending, if you do have questions, it's best if you could start asking your questions right now itself, because we will be joining the Q&A session in just a bit. Kristen, I'd love to get your perspective as well from the practicing attorney side, right? Which governance rule is most likely to be ignored when a tool feels easy or convenient to use?
I think supervision. I think that's a rule that when a tool feels easy and fast, sometimes you get lax in the supervision protocols that should be in place for a firm. So, whether that's using AI for research or drafting, you have to, number one, you cannot make any assumptions for anyone on any level of your firm. You have a duty to, supervise the person answering the phone, the paralegals, everyone. And you have to have really clear protocols for how any work that is at all partially generated by AI is reviewed before it goes out the door. And so it's easy to sometimes, when you've been working with the same team for a lot of years and you have that level of trust, to get lax on your supervision. And I think it's something everyone really needs to be careful about to make sure they're not relaxing too much, that they are introducing policies and protocols for these types of tools to make sure they're not letting any work go out the door that shouldn't. So supervision is so key. And and again, that's another big administrative headache that takes a lot of time. But there are other ways that you, especially with double checking work for quality, because you don't want to lose the quality. There's a lot of outsourced resources, human resources that can help with some of that.
All right, we're getting into our live Q&A session. So you may raise your hand or ask a question live or type it into the Q&A box. Anonymous questions are also welcome. But please make sure you include your role and the specific problem you're facing so Monica and Kristen can give you a practical answer. I may direct a question to one panelist first and invite one brief additional perspective if time allows. Now, we do have a question from one of our attendees, that is Seet Patel. Great session thus far, and I'm curious if the panelists have thoughts about measuring ROI and moving away from measuring book of business at law firms and moving towards measuring actual margins pre-AI and post-AI. On an ILTA piece authored last month, we touch upon this and other law firm ROI aspects, and he has also sent us a link. Christine, maybe we could start with you on that? Or would you like me to maybe rephrase the question so that you can better understand?
Yeah, I was just rereading it here too. So other ways, I guess if you're looking at the return on investment, I don't know if that means like in terms of a certain tool or marketing campaign or whatnot. I don't know that you're going to get, and maybe I'm not understanding this right, sorry, but I think the value of an attorney's book of business is kind of a different thing than the ROI evaluation that we typically do on different campaigns and tools. So yeah, Monica, if you have anything you want to add on this, by all means, please feel free. I don't think I'm getting to the heart of this. Sorry.
I mean, so what we thought about, and I don't know, Seet, if this is how you approached it, but how we approached it when we were looking at this was, what was the types of work that are potentially impacted by AI? So like oftentimes what we have is billing information that's like drafted an agreement, right? But in drafting an agreement, there might be multiple steps in drafting an agreement, some of them where AI could have an impact or has an impact, and some parts of it where it doesn't, right? So what we did is try to understand or try and break down some of those tasks that we thought potentially are impacted by AI. We tried to look at billing information, time entry information to see if we could identify those in terms of understanding, what is that kind of pre-AI and post-AI kind of world look like. And so that was the kind of approach that we took. It's, I think, still early days. This is my kind of opinion, is that we're still early days in terms of seeing the impact of AI at the firm billing level.
I hope that has answered your question, Asit. If any of you still have questions, please make sure to send it into our chat or the Q&A box as well. Even though we're ending the Q&A session, you still have the chance to do so, and we will get back to you with the answers within the day. All right, so I want to give you one quick reminder about that complimentary marketing strategy session from Echo Marketing. If tonight's discussion has made you think more carefully about where your firm may be losing time, visibility, or growth opportunities, this session is designed to help you take a closer look. You can scan the QR code on the screen and use a link that is placed in the chat. It takes less than a minute to reserve your session, and there is absolutely no obligation. Now, let's finish with one final takeaway from each of our panelists. So to close our discussion, before a law firm invests in another technology tool, what is the most important thing its leaders should consider? Monica, maybe we could start with you.
I think Kristen mentioned this earlier, and I'm sorry if I'm taking your thought.
Go ahead.
But looking at your existing tools, like look at your existing tools. Do you need another tool? so much functionality. Like, for example, we're using Harvey, and there's so much functionality in Harvey that we're still not tapping into. And I have lawyers every day asking me, hey, should we look at this tool? Should we look at that tool? And I'm like, have you looked at this? Have you tried it? So before we even, invest in something new, do we have that already within the existing tools that we have? So that would be my one kind of takeaway.
I think my takeaway would be to also be mindful if it's a tool that has to be acquired firm wide, because that's going to have a big price tag with it, or is it something that certain team members, certain practice groups need, but others don't? And all tools are not going to help all members of a bigger firm equally. And so that's something that law firm leaders and technology committees need to keep in mind when they're approving or not approving different tools, is who could really use them and benefit them, and being flexible is going to be key. And also just not looking for tools where maybe I'm seeing this less and less, where you're locked into long-term multi-year contracts. I think that's really changed a lot too in the past couple of years, where different vendors realize law firms are demanding and requiring flexibility, which is important when this technology environment is changing so quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen that too. And we used to have to purchase licenses for the whole firm, and this is changing as well.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Christine, for that. So tonight's biggest takeaway is that technology only creates real value when it improves a clear business or client outcome, and when the firm has the right people, processes, ownership, and measurement in place to support it. Monica and Christine, thank you so much for your practical insights, real-world examples, and honest guidance you shared with us tonight. And to everyone who joined us, thank you for your time, your questions, and your participation. I'm Angie, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Dominate Law panel. Good night.
Yeah.
All right, panelists, if you could wait a moment to have that debrief.
Yes.